It's like a new pair of underwear. At first it's constrictive, but after a while it becomes a part of you.
Together, they're bringing you the best in Oklahoma State sports talk and their opinions on sports topics from around the country.
That's right. Listen up. Hey, listen up. You.
Patrick Wheeler.
Let's stomp these dudes.
And Zach Lancaster.
Everyone is stupid except me.
This is the Afternoon Sports Drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network.
That's what I'm talking about. Sport!
You ain't never heard nothing like this. Let me work. Show me where the mic is. I'm on stage, black shirt and my Timbs. You know how I do it. I ain't playing with you. I've been grinding. Anybody trying to sleep on me, better do something with your eyelids. I hear a lot of whining, but I don't hear a lot of rhyming. Whoa. Everybody got opinions. Let it go into my ear, then I block that. Put me on stage, I'ma rock that. Saying you the best. Stop that, phony. I am not that. Yeah. What are y'all doing out here? What are y'all doing out here? Maybe you should spend a little less time with the women on your arms and a little bit more with your career.
Man, Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network, Monday. Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster kicking off a brand new week. Levi Peckinpah is running things back in the studio, and we're live at Furniture Showcase 5th and Main, downtown Stillwater, stillwaterfurnituresshowcase.com, or call 388-7177. Stillwater's Furniture and Mattress Store, family-owned since 1982, open Monday through Saturday, 9:30 to 6, and Sundays 1 to 5. During your extra time at home this past year, maybe you started thinking about refurnishing some of the rooms in your home because you were probably staring at them a lot more than you ever were in the past. Well, you have more options now in stock and ready for delivery at Furniture Showcase, sitting on one of their amazing chairs right now, fluffy and delightful.
Think about how many people actually did that, though. Like,
sat around and were like, you know what?
God, I have terrible taste.
I guarantee you a lot.
I've spent 2 straight months every day in here. I've had my groceries delivered. I don't have to drive anywhere, so I don't have to go get fuel in my car. I've been in this house for 62 days, and I have terrible taste.
Yeah.
I've got to go to Furniture Showcase.
Yeah, there you go. Happens everywhere.
We bought a few pieces.
Sure.
Over the last 9 months.
I bet this actually was a great business to be in during this and right now.
Absolutely.
Like people,
especially right now.
Yeah, they were forced. They were like, man, that is one ugly piece of furniture over there. Let me go get a new one.
Well, and it's got to be great right now because the economy is starting to go back up. People are starting to make more money, and they're like, you know what? I got a little extra cash now, and I need to get rid of that god-awful brown recliner that I have because it doesn't go with my white and black interior.
Yeah, and they came in like plays like Furniture Showcase and got it done. There you go. So over the weekend, yesterday, in fact, went and saw the movie Nobody.
Is it good?
It's not. I would give it a 7 out of 10.
That's good.
It's worth seeing
for an action film with
Bob Odenkirk.
Anyone's
like, oh, who's Bob Odenkirk? He played Better Call Saul in Breaking Bad, and then Better Call Saul the spinoff, and he's been into some other things as well.
I would have been more impressed if you came at me with Bob Odenkirk was a writer for The Simpsons and the Conan O'Brien show before Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad.
True. Those were the ones I figured people would be like, oh, yeah, okay.
Bob Odenkirk,
The Simpsons guy, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then he made an appearance in The Office, that one episode. It was pretty funny. It's a completely different character for Bob Odenkirk. He comes in, and he is just kicking you-know-what pretty much from the start to the finish. Nice. And what still blew my mind, okay? By the way, first movie in a theater I've been in a long time.
Yeah.
Like probably since last year. And I'm sitting there in the theater. And, of course, here come a family with 2 or 3 little kids, okay? It never ceases to fail. Every R-rated movie that I've ever been to has at least 1 or 2 families that bring their little kids, okay? Now, this movie is extremely violent. I mean, Bob Odenkirk is doing things, you could only, they sat down and thought to themselves, okay, he's going to kill a lot of people. Let's figure out really creative and nasty, violent ways for him to do so.
Nice.
And he did it for hours, which was great. I was like, this is awesome.
How long was it?
2.5, 2.5.
I'm here for
it. Yeah, it was awesome. You got to see it.
Every movie, 2+ hours.
Exactly. You got to see it. It's worth it. It's awesome. But it blew my mind. I was like, again, I see it all the time. I'm always thinking, this isn't like, they're not even like 13, 14, like 15, pushing high school age. These are like 7, 8, 9 at the most.
So let me take you back to 2008. Where were you in 2008?
2008? I would have been 12 years old, so junior high.
So 2008, and I don't exactly know when in 2008. I don't know if it was the fall or the spring, but but I was either a junior or senior in high school. We go and see Pineapple Express in Sapulpa, Oklahoma at the theaters. It's packed out.
Classic.
Right?
Yep.
There's like 15 seats left available, and there's 5 in front of us, about 3 or 4 seats down to the left. And a family of 5 comes in with 3 kids ranging from like 4 to 9. They had no, like, you don't do your research. They were there for 10 minutes before they got up and left.
That sounds about right. Yep, that
Like-
sounds exactly
like-
right.
Anything with Seth Rogen is probably not going to
True.
be kid friendly.
That's what I expected in this
especially
one.
when you can see them smoking.
Yes, for sure. And that's why I was thinking in this one. Like, after the prolonged violence for about an hour, I'm like, they're going to leave. No.
Stuck it
no.
out, huh?
Those kids are at school today, and I'll guarantee you one of them, the parent got a call, hey, your kid just roundhouse kicked this kid over here, said he saw it in the movie yesterday.
He's trying to pull someone's tongue out.
He's doing all these really violent things at these kids, and we don't know why. They're like, oh, sorry, he watched Bob Odenkirk yesterday. Oh, okay, explains.
Oh my
So that was my experience. I was like, man, what again? I just felt the need to bring that up because I feel like
That's
that
so
always
fun.
happens.
I don't know. I'm not big into movie theaters.
I'm not either really, but the main reason is because I haven't been there forever. I was
If it's
like,
a
try
if
it.
it's a big blockbuster,
Yeah.
like I think the last movies we saw were Midway and the Ford versus Ferrari.
Oh yeah,
Those are
yeah.
the last 2 movies we saw.
Well, and plus I mean, shout out AMC theaters. I love AMC.
Well,
theaters.
they've upgraded here in Stillwater. They're nice.
Oh, they're amazing. Recliner,
yeah,
full on. Just
and they're separated, so you're not
separated.
like on top of each
Yeah,
other.
you got space. It was perfect, man. I'm
Mhm.
telling you. And then cheap sounds bad, but cheap. Like
Yeah.
it was a brand new movie and cheap ticket. It was
Mhm.
awesome. So yeah, there you go. There's your weekend. There's your movie fix. Go and see. I recommend. I give it a 7 out of 10. Go and see Nobody. It's pretty good. Over the weekend as well, spring football. We got to see football at least make a return, right? And it's been the first football in quite a while that we've gotten to see, which is always a good thing, just to see them line up out there, go after it, and make some plays. What is it, 17,000 or so?
No,
There?
no.
No, that was okay.
No.
Okay, that was
Sean McGuire came up. The assistant SID comes up and he's like, "Hey everybody, just let everybody know the official count is 17,000," and not one media member didn't laugh.
okay.
Like
Well,
I would say like 11.5 on the high side.
got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they opened up the stadium. They
Right.
spread it out.
I saw some
Yeah.
some pictures of the stadium. Looked pretty. They had some fans there, obviously, that were excited to see some Cowboy football, even if it was against each other. Saw some highlights, and first thing I thought when I looked at that, well, at first I saw that there were a ton of field goals.
5 of them.
So you had
6, 1 missed.
right. So you had some drives ending, obviously in 3 points and not 6. Got points on the board. That's encouraging. Brady Pohl, correct? I mean,
Mhm.
had a great day.
4 for 4, 2 48ers, and that's actually I put up a 5 thoughts article on Pokes Report, and that's actually one of my thoughts is that the backup kickers are going to be much improved next year because he gets thrust into a situation last year where Alex Hale tears his ACL kicking
Yeah.
warm-ups in Bedlam, and he's like, "Oh hey Brady, by the way, you're going to be the starting kicker for the rest of the year," and he goes 5-9, which is better than I expected. So, yeah, so kicking should be improved next year.
Yeah, for sure, and it's a good start to see. I mean, at least you got drives that weren't ending in turnovers the whole way. I know a couple fumbles.
Mhm.
Was there an interception? I didn't think so.
No picks.
No picks, that's great. I mean,
improvement.
we came in, talking about that quite a bit. Doesn't matter. It's not just Spencer. It's whoever's a QB.
Yeah.
Make sure you limit the turnovers, and that was good as well. The defense is the high note. I mean, we knew that. Look, we mentioned the guys coming back on Friday, and who we really wanted to see. These and a lot of them returning, as we talked about, like with Colby, with Trey, with Malcolm. I mean, those are 3 guys right there that any defense would kill to have one of. You've got that coming in. A lot of young guys making some noise. I mean, it looks like another really solid year on that side of the ball.
I would venture to say that, like, I knew they were going to be good. All you have to do is look at who's returning, and you knew that they were going to be decent next year. You don't learn. There are bits and pieces that I took. I wasn't over the top excited on Saturday. It wasn't a lot of good football. I would venture to say even more like less exciting than a normal spring game. Like it was not a lot of offense, but at times they made some noise. You got to take a lot of what happened with Shane with a grain of salt. But you look at what this defense did, and you didn't have Trace Ford out there. You didn't have Devin Harper out there. And you look at what these defense did split up. They wreaked havoc on these offenses. And then you've got guys like Corey Black, Jabbar Muhammad, young guys that are coming up. Lamont Bishop really stood up a lot. He did well. I think this defense, leaving Saturday, I think this defense has a chance to be just as good as last year's defense. Maybe a little bit better. Honestly, I think this defense is going to be really good. And it's not one of those like, well, every year we say the linebackers are going to be good. This team, like, they're proven, and they return all but a few. I think this defense is going to be super good.
Yeah, well, they've got speed. That's another big part about it. They get after the football. They attack the football, and I think they're going to have plenty of turnovers again this season. Mm-hmm. Look, again, we something we mentioned on the weekend. You know, if you are Oklahoma State's defense, you come in this season with an expectation that you're going to rule the roost. I mean, it's usually the other way around, especially in today's college football where it's like offense.
I think they have a chance. You could be looking at anywhere between 1 and 3 a game this upcoming year. I think it's very doable.
That's one of the things that I'm going to look forward to a lot this year is, okay, we talk about it a lot. Can the defense bail out an offense? Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, this upcoming season, none of us would be surprised that happened multiple times, right? If a drive stalls out and next thing you know, they get the ball back. I do think they do have that opportunity to be one of the better defenses, not just in the Big 12, but in the country when you go head-to-head. So I'm excited to see that. That was obviously good. Then on the other side, you're like, okay, but does that mean that the offense wasn't that great? Now, Shane Illingworth, 2 touchdowns, and like you said, not against the top-level defense, but still, the throws were great. Those throws were great. He had the 1-2, and I'm missing the name now, the receiver, Rashad Owens.
Owens.
Just dusted.
Yeah.
I forgot to take a look at I couldn't tell who he was on, but he dusted his guy in front of him, defender. Went straight down, a little post route, just dropped it in there. Shane did perfect pass. On the other end, he gets another one where he's throwing to the corner of the end zone, right on the shoulder there, and made a great throw. And I'm telling you right now, he is a guy that, you look at what we know he has potentially in that arm, there's reason to believe that the pressure is certainly on throughout the season. That's what we said over and over. We just kind of got to see that verified one more time. Okay, remember, he's got the big arm back there. We'll get to Spencer here in just a bit, but I thought Shane, at least with that right there, and again, yes, not top-line defense, but when he had the chance to make those throws, he made a couple of really nice ones.
Yeah, he was doing it. And I've got – here we go. I know I wrote it down. So he goes out there, and he did well. You know, it wasn't like he was well, that's not accurate. I mistyped that. Yeah, 236 yards. I think he was like 16 of 25 or 26, something like that. 236 yards, 2 touchdowns. He went out there and he made plays. You could tell that the experience in the fall, and then a full off season, he's a lot more confident. We got to talk to him after the game. Really humble, really level-headed. I think that it does put a lot of pressure on Spencer, because you look at what Spencer did, and he was 22 of 30, 154 yards. So it wasn't like he was super, super explosive. But I don't know. I was talking to you about it. I don't know if it's necessarily by design, but it kind of sounds a little conspiracy theory-ish. But I don't know how much that they really wanted Spencer to go out there and completely dominate.
I would agree.
Because a quarterback, I don't want to say controversy or anything like that, but going into offseason when you've got 2 guys that look like they could do the job, that's going to drive media. That's going to drive attention to your program throughout the fall. I'm still on the bandwagon that Spencer is going to be the starter, and I know we're going to get into that here in the next segment. But I think what I learned more so, more than just the quarterbacks, especially with Shane, I think Shane is good, and I think he is the future of the program. But I think we did learn more about the receivers and the running back room than anything, because you didn't see Dez, you didn't see Dom. So there were no rushing touchdowns, which
much for that
was wild. But no Dez, no Dom, and you heard a lot of people kind of grumbling, like, man, these running backs, like, all we have is LD, and LD went down. He didn't get injured, but it was like an awkward tackle. And he was on the ground for about 10 or 15 seconds, and he got up and ran off the field, and that was the last time you saw him. But we saw a lot of Zach Middleton. We saw a lot of Jaylen Warren. And you go from thinking that this is a 3-deep running back room to all of a sudden, possibly, depending on how Middleton continues to develop, this could be a 5-deep running back room this year.
It's insane.
It is insane. And you look at the receiving, you look at receivers. I think Tay Martin is going to be a very suitable replacement for Tylan Wallace on the outside. We found out that Jaden Bray, the first touchdown that Illingworth threw in the corner of the end zone, freshman out of Norman, he's going to be a really, really talented receiver. Didn't see either one of the Green twins, so you didn't get to see the full complement. And so when you put the offensive line, and the offensive line did really well. A couple of sacks, but they were more scramble sacks, and they were from you were just going by touches. So like the quarterback, you probably don't count as sacks in a normal game, but they were younger guys that got those sacks, not necessarily Illingworth or Spencer. But I think you combine everything together. You combine the defenses, they're going to be outstanding. You combine the offenses together, they're going to be outstanding. I am looking forward to the mundane conspiracy theory talks throughout, May, June, and July about, Shane Illingworth, he threw for 2 touchdowns. He threw for more than 100 yards than Spencer did. I don't know how you can have Spencer as a starting quarterback. Like, I'm ready for those talks for the next 3 months.
Yeah, I think they're on their way, well on their way if they're not here.
Yikes.
I was encouraged by what I saw from Tay Martin. I mean, you mentioned wide receiver, and you heard Gundy basically explain after the game, well, he's in shape now.
Yep. What was it, like the end of July last year when he showed up?
Yeah, and he's like, that whole time, a lot of it, and then coming in through the pandemic and everything, admitted he wasn't in shape.
Yeah.
But he says he is now. He feels good he feels more confident about what he's doing out there. He's more confident in his skill set, and that's important. You got to have a guy that's going to slide in. We've mentioned that over and over, who's going to be that potential number 1. Those are very large shoes to fill with no Tylan Wallace. Well, if Tay Martin, who had a number of targets from Spencer Sanders, is that guy, then you won't hear me complain too much. I think he has that ability, again, like I've said. But, we obviously want to see more from him. What all can he do? You got to see Brendan Presley involved on a signature, what I think is a signature score. We're going to see that play a lot this year until teams prove they can stop it. And you watch it, he was bottled up. It looked like he wasn't going anywhere. He looked like he was out of room there on the edge. He burst off and gets in the end zone.
Did you listen to the press game at all, the post game?
A little bit, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did you hear his quotes on that play? So they asked him about it, and this goes to show you the maturity and the growth that we've seen from Brendan Presley from year 1 to year 2. Because someone asked him, like, well, did you ever think about cutting it inside? And he said, yeah. Like, almost as soon as I got to the end of the line,
you could kind of tell.
He was like, my mind, I was like, I need to go. I need to cut it up. And he's like, you know what? I'm gonna stick it out on the end. I'm gonna see if I can outrun these guys. And it was 5 feet, and all of a sudden I saw nothing but green. You see the maturity and the growth from that kid from year 1 to year 2, and he brought something up that I think a lot of people forgot about. I think it was Jenny Carlson asked him about spring ball last year. He's like, now that you've had your first full spring, how do you feel like you've improved from last year? And he's like, well, actually, I was running track last year. I've never had spring football. I've always had I think you're going to see him really, really blossom into a really talented and athletic player between now and the start of the year.
Yeah, I agree. We saw that on that play specifically. Yeah, that was a mature play, because you're
Young
right.
Guys cut it up.
The guy could have cut in easily and would have been stopped for a couple of yards, and that would have been it. But he was patient. He waited, and that's good to see. You want those guys with the ball in their hand to not necessarily think that the first move is the best move. We know that when patience comes, a lot of times success follows, and he did a good job of that on that particular play. Again, he remains one of the more exciting players I think we're going to see this upcoming season throughout the rest of his career, provided he stays healthy and his explosiveness and athletic ability is on display. When we come back here on the afternoon sports drive, we'll dive in a little bit to that Spencer Sanders stuff. Should we put a lot of stock in what we saw yesterday? I mean, is there worry? Is there time for concern at the quarterback position? We're going to answer those questions coming up here on the afternoon sports drive.
Oh, screaming out at the top of my lungs, 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 tell the world that I found the one. Oh, my baby's hotter than the golden sun. You make my heart beat like a bass drum. Listen to me now.
Welcome back in Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster. On a Monday, live from Stillwater Furniture Showcase. Make sure you come over here for all your furniture and mattress needs. Free design services as well. Express delivery. Financing is available. If you're looking for new furniture, you don't have to drive to Oklahoma City, Tulsa, or Wichita and have to wait because what you want is out of stock. Furniture Showcase has the big brands and big selections here in Stillwater right now. Open today until 6 p.m. So come check them out. StillwaterFurnitureShowcase.com. Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster on the Afternoon Sports Drive. We were talking about the spring game that took place on Saturday this weekend between the orange team and the black team for Oklahoma State football back out there in action. Well, what about Spencer Sanders? What was his performance like? And, Zach, I guess, right, because we've got that new rule for the little pitch play that Brendan Presley took, that was a touchdown. That counts as a passing touchdown. That was, by the way, the best thing that could ever happen for quarterbacks. Because when they get down there on the goal line, if you have a speedster like Brendan Presley, this is the next level too. You see
no more handoffs.
Exactly. You see it with faster guys and on NFL teams. They just hand it off. Oh, passing touchdown. Let me check that off on the stats right there for the quarterback. Nice and easy. Quarterbacks and fantasy owners love it a ton, and you got to see it on display a little bit. And I think that's a play that's firmly instilled in the playbook, circled around Brendan Presley's name. Now, from Spencer Sanders' perspective here, like you said, probably didn't see any sort of designed explosive play from him. I'm with you on that.
No runs.
That's a part of it. You don't. How many times we gotta say you don't want him to get hurt? I mean, if you were a fan going to the spring game and you expected a lot of that, well, you expected incorrectly. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. Now, people like to jump on the bus really quickly of, oh my gosh, we didn't see enough from him. And while at times you may have seen some things that you hope he would have started to increase efficiency on, still, I think you've got a guy that we haven't seen anything from this season yet. And again, that was part of the whole, well, we're not going to expose too much of what he does, And fans and people may freak out and say, well, we saw more out of Shane because he had those 2 big touchdowns compared to him and all this stuff. You got to understand the context, like you said. I think that is overplayed completely. Spencer's the guy, plain and simple. I don't think there's any question when he starts the season, he's the guy. Now, again, I said this last year, even midway through, whenever he came back, I was like, hey, he'll come back, and he'll be healthy, hopefully, but the leash is going to be short on. I kept saying that over and over. It wasn't necessarily the case all that much, but then you had Shane dealing with COVID issues, right, eventually, so you were like, look, we're gonna win or lose with Spencer. And at that point, it's like, all right. But the good news is we didn't see really any big-time forced throws, which is good, right? There were some misses, which is going to happen. He didn't see any interceptions. We're not going to get a full display of what Spencer has improved on until an actual game comes around, until Missouri State comes into Stillwater. We're not going to see that. Then we can start really judging on, okay, if he's throwing interceptions against Missouri State, or if he's holding on to the football too long and he's not climbing the pocket with efficiency and he's not getting his reads down, then we can all freak out and say, bring in Shane Illingworth. But right now, we got to calm it.
I think we saw what we were supposed to see. I get that Gundy's like, this is football. The fans want to see football, so they didn't do too many drills. They did a couple, like, you go back to years past and you get 30 minutes of, warm-up practice drills and some one-on-one and, not much at all. And so you come out, you see some stretching, you see a little bit of practice, you see about 10 to 15 minutes of 7-on-7, and then all of a sudden it's kickoff, and you're seeing 11-on-11 for the next hour and a half, hour 45. I think we saw from Spencer what we were supposed to see from Spencer. I think we saw from Shane what we were supposed to see from Shane, because while Shane was good, there were some plays you saw from him. You were kind of like, well, there's the youth. He's trying to make that big play. He's trying to be explosive, for some passes. Now, no interceptions on either side. That's huge. But I think you look at Spencer, and the biggest thing I took away from Spencer when we actually saw I think we saw a glimpse of what Spencer is going to be this upcoming year. Was the final? I think it was like roughly 4 minutes left on the clock. Orange gets the ball back, and they ended the game early. Orange gets the ball back, and I've got the sequence typed out here because it was really impressive. You have Spencer towards the end of the game. He goes across the middle for 9 yards to Zach Middleton. You go Zach Middleton for 2 yards, to Brennan Presley for 7 yards, 13 yards to Brennan Presley, 5 yards to Tay Martin, 7 yards to Middleton, 15 yards to Martin. You had a no gain from Zach Middleton. You had a 3-yard rush from Zach Middleton, and then you had an end around, the little jet flip from Spencer to Brennan Presley for an 8-yard touchdown. Boom, 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 boom. He was 8 for 8 for 66 yards, and they moved down the field incredibly fast, incredibly efficient. Kept the defense on their toes the entire time, and ended up scoring a touchdown. The only 2 plays that didn't have Spencer throwing the ball was a no gain and a 3-yard rush. That's the kind of Spencer that you're going to see next year. Now, I'm not saying that all the worries and all the woes and all the everything is just going to be, hunky-dory and everything's going to be great. But the thing about Spencer is he is incredibly talented. He is very athletic. I think it was by design that we didn't see a ton of. We saw no designed runs. Now they weren't hitting the quarterbacks. It was all 2-hand touch. The quarterbacks never got hit. But you just never saw it, and I think that's smart. I think Gundy is looking at this like, you know what, we're going to give the fans just enough, and I'm not saying that Gundy sits around thinking of the ways to mess with the media and mess with the fan base and stuff like that. But if you go into that's it, no more spring football. You can have workouts. You can have players can show up for voluntary practices if they want. That's what you're going to see over the summer, voluntary or involuntary drills, or voluntary drills rather. But there's no more football. And so if you go into this dead period now, you go into May, and all of a sudden it's, man, Shane Illingworth, he missed a handful of passes and threw for 2,500 yards and threw for 2 touchdowns and looked really, really good. And then you had Spencer, who kind of struggled a little bit, just kind of dinked and dunked and didn't have any running plays and threw for less than 160 yards. And, man, he just didn't look good. That is gold for your program. Because Oklahoma State, ESPN, what is it, the FPI, they've got them, 11?
Yeah,
12 or something like that. So it's not like the national media is not going to be talking about Oklahoma State. When you go into this season and you get ESPN or CBS or Fox or whatever, and they're like, man, Spencer Sanders, I think, is supposed to be the guy, but they got this kid that they brought in for Spencer last year. He looked pretty damn good in the spring. He knew what he was doing. He was moving the ball, threw a couple touchdowns in the spring game against a really good defense. I don't know. It's what you and I have been saying for the past few months. Spencer's the guy. They're going to go into the fall. Spencer's a quarterback. But just like you and I have been saying, that leash is going to be short. I don't think he's going to have any issues in the non-conference. And that's not saying that he's going to have issues in conference play. But I don't think he's going to have any issues in the non-conference game. I think he's going to play really, really well. Tulsa might give him some issues because Tulsa's pretty solid now. But when you get into conference play, if you start to struggle, now if they're winning games and he's doing just enough, then I don't think that's any issue. But if you start to see games like you saw against TCU, and there's threats of, well, listen, I don't know if Spencer has it. I don't know if he can get it done. You have a proven commodity at backup. Shane Illingworth can get it done. He had the experience. He had a halfway fall last year, about a half a fall last year. He's now had his first full off-season workouts with Rob Glass. He's had a full spring. He's going to have a full summer of those voluntary workouts. Shane will be prepared. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to be lights out because he's still young. He still has a lot of growth. He's got a lot of room for improvement. But we know that he can go out there against good talent and can get it done. So Spencer's a starter. I think Spencer's going to do really well. I think we've seen him turn the corner. I think you'll still probably see the turnovers. You'll probably see some fumbles. You'll probably see some interceptions. But I don't think it's going to be enough in order to lose OSU a game. So I don't know how much we're going to get to see Shane play, but just know that the future is incredibly bright.
I think people look at the quarterback situation from the wrong angle.
Yeah.
Because instead of, during the season, when the season comes around, like, I'm going to dissect everything Spencer does. Absolutely, I will. You know, was he good? Was he bad? Whatever. But the angle isn't, you know, oh man, we got to make sure and trash Spencer every time he's out there. No, the angle needs to be, hey, if he screws up, like, we have a solid backup waiting in the wings.
Exactly.
I know that as a fan base, you really want camaraderie and you want to be able to root for your starters on that team and everything. But that's how you should be looking at it, in my opinion, is, look, if he screws up, we got a guy who very well looks the part. By the way, I mean, he really does. He's Shane out there. He just looks like the ideal quarterback, you know. And that guy, just a big quarterback. Yeah. Right, he's going to stand up tall in the pocket and make big throws. So I would be looking at it from that right there, because I'm like a lot of people. I understand, man. I get frustrated with what Spencer did, especially last year.
Yeah.
You know, when he's good, he's good. When he's not, he's not. Plain and simple. I mean, and the turnovers, look, the difference, again, I'll explain it one more time. Bad turnovers. Yep. That's the thing. If you make a turnover where you're trying to get it into a really tight spot and it's a pressure throw and all that, it's understandable at times. But when you're staring down a receiver and you're not getting rid of the ball quick enough, you clearly didn't go through your progressions, all those things that got to be fixed. That's when you're going to start hearing, all right, man, like, enough of that. You know, we gotta have something else better happen at this position, or else this can't continue and expect to win.
Well, and here's my thing. I said it last week. And I just want to say it again because I think it's very important. It's not the main deciding factor, but I think it is incredibly important. Spencer is good. There's no denying it. It's not like Shane is better, but Spencer's older, and so they're going to give him because he's earned the right. Spencer is good enough to start a quarterback. He's good enough to win you games, and I think he's turned the corner, and he's going to play a lot better this year than he did last year. But here's the thing. Spencer and Shane are close in talent. Shane is good enough, like you said. If Spencer trips up and he struggles and he can't get it done, Shane can go out there and he can get the job done. He can perform well enough that he can win games. But here's the thing, because Spencer is good enough, if there's any inclination, there's any doubt in Spencer's mind that he's not going to be the starter, he's gone. Why would he stay? If you're going into your redshirt junior year, you've been here 4 years, and he knows he can do the job, and the coaches know he can do the job. But if they go into fall football, or they leave spring and they're going into the summer, and Spencer's like, man, I think they're going to play Shane. They're really talking him up. They're giving him a lot of the first team reps. He's gone. And then you have a solid quarterback if that's the case. You have Shane Illingworth. But then what? What do you have after that? You get Ethan Bullock. And I'm sure he's a great guy, but Ethan Bullock is not a good enough quarterback to win Oklahoma State games at the Division I level. Mm-hmm. He's probably a mid-major quarterback. He's not good enough to be a Power 5 Division I quarterback. And then what do you have behind Ethan Bullock? You got a couple of young guys. You got Peyton Thompson and you got Gunnar Gundy, guys that have nowhere near the amount or any kind of experience that was required to be a good quarterback at this level. You can't allow Spencer to think that he's not going to be the starter. And I'm not saying that that's why he's going to be the starter. Like, well, we can't afford to lose him. He's good enough to be the starting quarterback, but you can't lose him. So Shane is probably not going to be, probably not. He will not be the starting quarterback going into that first game. I think he's good enough to be the starting quarterback, but it ain't going to happen. It's going to be Spencer because, one, Spencer's good enough, but two, if Shane's the starting quarterback, Spencer's gone. He's not going to stick it out to allow a free year freshman or a possible sophomore, depending on how they want to look at it, to be the starter. And he's like, well, I'll just be the good backup. No, because Spencer's good enough to go and start at 75% of the teams in the country and win ball games.
Get him on Twitter at ZLancaster91. I'm at the Patty Wheels. Yeah, you're right. If he was any of that, there'd be no reason for him to
Why
stay.
Would he stay?
There would be no reason.
No. I mean, Shane is good, and I think he has a great deep ball. He is one of the prettier deep balls we've seen in a while. It's like Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph could throw a deep ball. You got a great receiver. Just launch it towards the end zone. James Washington's going to come down with it. Shane can do that. And he's got a good short ball. He's got a good intermediate ball. But when you look at Spencer can do more on the ground than Shane can. And that's something Shane talked about. He's like, I'm slow. I've got to work on my speed. I've got to work on my movement. It's got to improve. Spencer has a good ball, and he's very capable. He's a talented quarterback. And Shane's a good quarterback. But if Spencer has any doubt at all, like, I'm not going to be the starter, NCAA says, you know what, Spencer? You can go anywhere you want that'll have you, and you can do it for free. You don't have to sit. You could transfer the second week of August, and if you get to another program within a week, and they want you to be their starter, that's fine. You can do that, and he would if he weren't going to be the starter, but he'll be the starter.
When we come back on the afternoon sports drive, Oklahoma State baseball over the weekend. How did they look against the number 1 team in the conference? Find out next here at Triple Play Sports Radio.
Showed you true colors, I don't like what I see. Story keeps changing, I know what that means. Know what that means, I know what that means. How'd you go from being that somebody I believed into being someone doubting me behind the scenes? Can't forgive or sorry that I ain't never received. I mean, least you could've done was gave me an apology. But you're so prideful, yeah, prideful.
Welcome back in Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster, Monday edition live. Furniture Showcase, 5th and Main, downtown Stillwater, where Zach is officially...
I got called out.
Officially in the recliner.
I got called out. We were sitting here the last break, and we were joking. There's a really nice chair over here. It's like a dining room chair. It's wooden, really sturdy, good for my back. I've had an achy back for a few days. Good back support. Causes you to set up, great posture. Really nice.
Excellent posture.
Well, my shoulders are sore, so I was kind of stretching a little bit. And then the break happened, and we were joking. I was like, man, what I should have done is, like, grabbed, like, the most comfortable recliner and, like, drug it back here. And they heard me, and they were like, do you want a better chair? And I was like, no. I love this chair. I really enjoy this chair. It's a comfortable chair. I like it. And then we go into the next segment. And all of a sudden, here comes this woman, and she's bringing me a recliner. She carries it through the store and sets it down beside me. And I was just like, I don't want to move. I don't want to seem like a jerk. And Patrick's like, yeah, if you don't sit in that chair, you are a jerk.
I said, you sit in that chair right now. You sit in that chair.
Called me out, and she was like, are you gonna sit in your chair? And I was like, I just want it to be known that I'm not a jerk. I like this chair that I'm sitting in. I'm not a jerk. I'm very grateful for this wonderful recliner, but like, I just want it to be known.
Disclaimer: I'm not a chair hater.
Oh my gosh! I just knew I was sitting there like I saw her out of the corner of my eye bring in the recliner, and I was like, man, I'm gonna get a call. I'm gonna get a call from Bill Hurley that I'm causing a fuss, that I'm being Mr. Big Time, Mr. A+ here, and
yep. Hey, it looks amazing, man.
It is so comfortable.
It looks like
it's soft.
I mean, you're mad chilling over there.
It's plush.
Yep.
It's the same material that is on my recliner at the house. It's super soft. It's kind of like checkered almost, and it's a rocker.
That's the best. I mean, right there, you're just chilling.
I gotta be careful because I'm hitting my dead period anywhere between like 2:45 and 4:30. All energy gone.
Agreed. Zapped.
And now I'm in this super comfortable chair that goes to like 32 degrees backwards, and I'm gonna rock myself to sleep.
Yeah, if I look over and you're out, I'm gonna have to.
I got a peppermint in. I went old man mode.
You went full old man.
And so like I'll be drooling peppermint down.
Nice. I'm gonna carry on by myself over here.
Yeah. If you hear me snoring, just turn my mic down.
Okay, I can take care of that.
Appreciate you.
Over the weekend, Oklahoma State baseball against Texas lost 2 out of 3, number 3 team in the country. But yesterday they did win 7-3, which was obviously really important to not get swept against this Texas squad, which we knew, Zach. Friday we talked about it over and over. That game wasn't going to happen. It was pouring.
Got a little wet.
The second we got off the air, it didn't stop raining through the rest of the night. So it rained. They double-headered on Saturday. And then yesterday you saw Brett Stanley. If I had told you that Brett Stanley was the one that came in and got the win yesterday against Texas a week ago, you probably would have been like, what? You're crazy. He's not
not happening.
He's not going to be the guy that did that. Well, he did. He got the first win in his first start of the season. He went 6 innings, 2 runs, 3 hits, struck out 10. That's a career best right there.
I will say I don't know if I'm necessarily disappointed in the 1 out of 3 here. Because if you look at that doubleheader, it was a 4-3 loss and a 2-5 loss, or a 5-2 loss. Losses aren't great, but when you're playing the number 3 team in the country and a doubleheader on Saturday, and you manage to lose 4-3 and 5-2, like if they went out there and they lost the first game 7-2, and then they turned around and they lost the second game, 9-4, that's bad. But the fact that they go out there and it's 4-3, 5-2, and then you turn around and you get Christian Encarnacion-Strand, who continues his hot streak, which, by the way, I don't know if you've seen or not.
I just did.
Big 12 names him the player of the week.
Yep.
Which
that's happened multiple times.
Not surprised.
I believe.
Let me open up this. Let me open up this here release from, and I'll see. It's the second time.
Second time. Yep.
For the second time this season, he's Big 12 player of the week, and I'd have to imagine that he is. He's probably won Big 12 honors more than just that.
Yeah.
The only disappointing thing is he had his 16 game. He had his hitting streak snapped. Against, I think it was like 18 or 19 games.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And
man.
he went 0 for 3, I think, in that second game.
I mean, that's a good chunk of the season where he's just been every single game guaranteed to get on base with a hit. Now he and I think it was number 15 last night or yesterday. He, Jake Thompson, Houston Morrill all had 2-run homers in that game. That's pretty. You get 3 guys that are going to go 2-run blast. Those are solid shots right there.
5-game stretch for CES. 10. He had led the Big 12 in hits with 10. RBIs with 8, 26 total bases, and he had a 1.368 slugging percentage. Those all led the Big 12 in 5 games. He hit .526 on the week. He was 10-19 with 3 homers, 3 doubles, and 2 triples.
That's it?
Yeah.
My gosh.
If you paid college players, you're looking at Albert Pujols.
That's like that's a stat line that since now I've been playing the show for 2 weeks straight, I'm starting to produce stuff like that on a video game, okay? Mm-hmm. Christian Encarnacion-Strand with those video game type numbers.
Those are insane.
Got another 2-run shot yesterday. Houston Morrill bomb. I mean, he dropped a bomb yesterday, and his was absolutely a moonshot as well.
And if you are curious, it is his 15th.
15, yeah, number 15, which is obviously
15.
Extremely impressive.
And I love how Wade McWhorter, I love how he described it. He smacked his 15th.
Smacked it. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You can't just say that he hit it because he never just hits it. He either bombs it, smacks it, crushes, whatever you want to use there. Absolutely every single time. Now, Oklahoma State 24-12-1 on the season. I'm like you. You look at those first 2 games with the run totals, and we were curious about what the pitching would be like, especially with no Parker Scott on this series. Right? He was supposed to start that first game. And you didn't have him coming in, and he's arguably your best pitcher. You're like, wait a second, now what is, how are we going to get through this series without him? And you look at it, what did you say, 4 runs in that first game? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's against a Texas offense that can really swing it. You get 5 the next game. That's not bad. You kind of ran out of offense, which we've talked about a bunch this season. That's the one side of the ball, though, that you're really not usually that worried about in any series. Just so happened that if you aren't bunching together a lot of runs against Texas, not easy to win. That's why you would almost prefer in a series with them, you wouldn't mind 9-8 games, 10-7 games where you're able to try to basically just let's see if we can outscore them towards the end here.
Which I need you to know that you'll be a terrible odds maker.
Yeah, you're right. What did I say? 8.5?
7.
Ooh,
missed it by a run and a half.
Well, you could have taken you could take the under.
I lost the farm. You gave me 8.5 runs.
You could have taken the under.
You took the over though.
I did. I did just
so that means to tell you that means to say that you wanted the 8.5.
Yeah, I set the odd and then I took the over. It doesn't mean that you have to also take my over.
Yeah. You bet the way the odd maker wants you to bet.
Okay, you actually listened to my advice and you were like, wait, he said it.
If the odd maker is like, you should take 8.5, and then the president of the odd company is like, I think I'll take the over. You take the over.
Maybe it was just more bad advice than necessarily setting the run total.
I'll send you an invoice.
Okay, that's fine. I'll send it back to you. 24-12-1 on the season. Next up is Bedlam series this weekend. They don't play again until Friday. No midweek stuff like we've been used to here on tomorrow or anything like that.
I think is going to be very beneficial.
I agree. Maybe get some guys healed up a little bit, get some nicks taken care of, then come in really, really fresh Friday. By the way, first game is in Stillwater. The next 2 are in Norman, is how it goes with this series. So the only one you're going to be able to catch in Stillwater is Friday night at 6 o'clock.
I am a fan of campus series games.
Like split up like that.
Love it.
Yeah, I do too.
I enjoy, I enjoy the minor league ballparks. I think Tulsa One Oak Field is one of the better minor league ballparks in the country.
Absolutely.
But I love the home field advantage. I love Bedlam is a ruckus game, the ruckus series. I love the screaming OSU fans. I love the screaming OU fans. I love that atmosphere. So give me campus series Bedlam every game.
Yeah, I'm with you on that as well. We come back here on the Afternoon Sports Drive, hour number 2. We will get into some buy or sell. By the way, it is draft week in the NFL. We can't wait to get that underway and see where some of these Oklahoma State players land. There's a lot of big stories.
I'm not taking your odds.
Well, I mean, look, just because I set the total slightly high on one game
Wrong.
doesn't mean I'm just down for the count.
Yes, you are.
Come on now. Everybody gets a second chance.
Not my book.
Just wow, that's
You've already
strict.
had your second chance. We're on like 9.
Oh, wow. Well, that's actually true compared to everything that I've had chance on. Yeah, that's right.
That's true.
But when Friday comes around, you can already bet. I'm going to be rolling out another total, some props, something like that.
I'll take the
play
under.
odds maker, right?
I'll be taking the
under.
under.
You take no matter what. You're just taking the
Yep,
under. We're going to have to set like a new segment, like called odds maker. We just throw it out there, and you're going to see if I'm crazy or if I'm spot on. And when I do become spot on with these, I expect you to be like, "Hey, nice." By the way,
I'll be. How many though? How many rights does it take to be spot on though with you?
Well,
Because if we're talking
I
like
set the over under at 5.
under.
Okay, that's fine. We'll come back. We'll look at the buy or sell. We'll get into some NFL draft talk and take a look at what's coming up on Thursday. All still to come here on the Afternoon Sports Drive. Hour number 2 is coming up next.
And I don't know how we make it out when we make out on the low. Even if it rains, you'd rather make it snow. Both you and me know we gotta let it go. Laying on the ground, wondering why it's so cold. How we make it out when we make out on the low. Even if it rains, you'd rather make it snow. Both you and me know we gotta let it go.
It's hour number 2, Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster. Monday edition, live from Furniture Showcase, 5th and Main, downtown Stillwater. Visit their website, stillwaterfurnitureshowcase.com, or call them at 388-7177. Guaranteed to find exactly what you need over here at Stillwater Furniture Showcase. Same big names as the big stores in the big city, but no hassles, no traffic delays. Furniture Showcase in Stillwater has nearly 50 furniture brands like Lazy Boy, Trisha Yearwood, Ashley, Bassett, Riverside, and more than 40 others. So make sure you come check them out. Great selection here at Furniture Showcase. To start off the second hour, we're going to get into some buy or sell.
Are you buying?
I'd buy that for $1.
Or are you selling?
You pick up the phone and you sell.
This is Buy or Sell on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Make money, money, make money.
Buy or sell, Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio, Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster. One of the guys I thought on Saturday, Zach, that had a good showing and turned some heads is John Paul Richardson, wide receiver. And I really do, even coming out of high school into college football, it seemed like there was this big confidence about this kid that he could go out there and he's going to make any catch, or at least attempt to, that you're going to throw his way. He looks like he could be a middle-of-the-field guy if needed. And I think he's really scrappy. He's got that type of play in him, and he very well could force himself into some action this year. So buy or sell. Now, this is looking down the road a little bit because this is who he reminds me of a bit already. But buy or sell, John Paul Richardson emerges as the next Dylan Stoner.
Yeah, I'll buy the down the road.
Okay.
I won't take this year. I think he plays this year. I don't know how much he plays. The crazy thing is they had a lot of freshmen come. I think the most freshmen since Gundy took over the program, and maybe program history, that they had early enroll. I think it was like 11 or 12. He was one of them, obviously. I don't know how much you see him play this year. I don't know if you try to see the coaches try to redshirt him, because you do have Brennan Presley. You do have Braden Johnson, who's looking like he's going to be a middle receiver.
Yeah.
So I with what we saw on Saturday, I think it's very possible. He's incredibly physical for his size. He's fast. He's sure-handed. He can, we saw the diving touchdown play we saw on Sports Center a couple months ago from the state tournament down there in Texas. So it's possible. Yeah, I think it's really possible. I'll buy a few years. Maybe not this year. Maybe we start to see a little bit of it next year. But by the time he's in his third year, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think I could do that as well. He needs to be a guy though that, for instance, with Dylan Stoner, was a receiver that never got enough targets to me. And he was, in a time as well with Tylan Wallace there, so at the end, and that's understandable. He's also, I said a bunch last year, I didn't think OSU's offense utilized the middle of the field enough, and that's where Dylan Stoner really made a living, was when he did catch passes. He was that slot kind of guy. And I think you're right, John Paul Richardson, very, very physical for his size, and he pretty much has to be if he wants to survive there. And I'll buy it eventually down the road, like you said, too, but it's if he can instill that same work ethic.
And I think he can.
That's what I've heard.
Everything we heard out of high school, I think he's already got it.
Yeah, and that has to happen.
Now I'm not saying that he works as hard as Dylan Stoner did, this past year, because Stoner's a literal grown man. But I think he is well on his way to becoming that.
Yeah, that's why if I were him, I would have gotten as much advice from Dylan Stoner as possible. Been like, hey man, tell me why and how you were able to do what you did when no one was looking.
He goes to that autograph signing that's set up in Broken Arrow. Hey, Dylan, current receiver.
Listen, man.
You got any tips,
This
man?
is my best way to get a hold of you. In person. Yeah.
I've been sending you DMs, and you just don't respond.
By the way, can you sign this? Yeah. So I think that he could have that ability to do so, but he has to have, like you said, and maybe he does already, at least starting on that right path of putting in the extra reps, staying when no one's there, right? Doing all that kind of thing that's going to help you stand out, because he already has made some, like we talked about yesterday, obviously in high school, not the same as college, but still he's made some nice plays before. He looks like a guy that you may not be physically threatened by his size when he walks out there on the field, but maybe pleasantly surprised by some of the catches he pulls in. Now they could utilize him, and that's somewhat of what I want to see more of OSU this year offensively. Will we go middle of the field? I think you're going to be forced to a little bit. You don't necessarily have a consistent, deep outside guy. You need to be able to look more in the middle, and I think that's something we're going to see. Maybe whenever he does get those chances, that's some of the routes that he runs. So I think eventually, like you said, 2 or 3 years down the road, we may be talking about and looking at a comp and saying, yeah, John Paul Richardson reminds a lot of people of Dylan Stoner. I really do believe that's potential.
If the one thing I need to see if he can grow a pretty sweet mustache.
Well, that too.
I need to see a Stoner stash. But two, if we're talking comparisons with Dylan Stoner, I don't know if you heard earlier this week on Tuesday, but Gundy went out and compared Stoner to Julian Edelman. Now, obviously,
I've heard that multiple times.
Now, obviously, Julian Edelman has won multiple Super Bowls. He's Super Bowl MVP. So Stoner's got a ways to go. But when we're talking about, fearless across the middle, you need 10, I'll get you 11. I'm not afraid of that linebacker or a corner streaking or the blitz and safety. I'm going to go in and I'm going to cut across and I'm going to get you those 4 yards that you need. That's Julian Edelman.
Yeah, that's where the comp comes to is the toughness, obviously, because he is, and the work ethic. I think, that was something that Julian Edelman, when severely underrated, was you could clearly tell, especially with his size. And as we've talked about coming into the league, he wasn't a wide receiver. Being able to do what he did and transform himself into that took a ton of work, and that's something that people look at what Dylan Stoner did while he was in college and say that's why at the next level he'll probably get a chance on a practice squad, and knowing him, he may work hard enough to force his way into some action at some point.
Well, the thing about Dylan, too, though, is I loved watching him play for Oklahoma State, but Dylan Stoner's the kind of player who was at a bit of a disadvantage because he was at Oklahoma State. Because you look at the receivers that he played with during his time. You go back to James Washington, Marcel Aitman, Chris Lacey, and then you get Tylan Wallace. I mean, you had all these receivers that are getting 1,000+ yards a season, and Dylan Stoner is going out there and literally scrapping, and he'll bring in 354, 455. But then you see what he can do and I get it. Okay, Baylor was not good last year. Their defense had been decimated, But you look at what Dylan Stoner went out there and did against Baylor. It was like 200-plus yards.
Mm-hmm.
He had like 2 or 3 touchdowns. When Dylan Stoner is given that spotlight, if he'd have went somewhere else, he could have been that number 1 or number 2 receiver for a couple of seasons and probably ends up getting himself drafted.
Yeah, those were some tough depth charts to be
Yeah.
on. Be a part of. And what he did, again, that's why you hear when people talk about him so much is because what he did
Absolutely.
went overlooked because, again, you had the talent so much elsewhere at that position where it was like, oh, hey, Dylan caught a couple of passes. That's great. But what's Tylen doing?
Right.
What's James Washington doing? No, we got to respect those guys, too, that do that dirty work and help you get those extra yards.
Absolutely. So I'm going to stick with football. I'm going to stick with the freshmen. I'm sticking young guys. What we saw from Jaden Bray on Saturday, right? He goes out there and hauls in 5 receptions, 89 yards, 2 touchdowns, the only 2 that Shane Illingworth threw, and they were good balls.
Yeah, they were.
They were good. So buy or sell, Jaden Bray, he emerges as one of the next standout receivers at Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I think it's certainly possible. You know, he hauled one in from Shane and from Ethan. I mean, he's a guy that, and he has good hands, clearly. Speed is there. I think separation is another thing we saw a little bit of. If you look at that shoulder throw, he had separation on his guy. And, yes, it was a great ball, but also a great play on that ball in a very tight window. So that was great to see. Excuse me. So I do believe that Jaden Bray absolutely will emerge as one of those next guys up. You know, I think he's right there with John Paul Richardson on the depth chart now, and he's maybe forcing himself into the conversation a bit too with that performance. And clearly a guy that can make plays happen. So maybe we see him later on in the season in a Brendan Presley type role of last year, you know, or something like that. But I do believe he will get his chances, after what he did. I know it's the spring game and all that, but hey, score a couple of touchdowns and get your name out there. That certainly helps, man. So I'm going to buy. I think he's definitely one of the guys coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that Robert's talked about a lot the past couple of weeks is Jaden Bray is someone that's really, really surprised the coaching staff. Now, obviously, if you go out and you recruit a kid and you offer him, you obviously see something in him. But I don't know if anyone expected to see this kind of level from him just a few months into him being an on campus. Because you go from December high school kid to January college kid going up against grown men on the defense, and he's going out there and making plays and adjusting really, really well. I don't know about this year. I think he makes some plays this year. I think he turns a lot of heads this year. But I think he's going to give those outside guys a run for their money this year. I think he's gonna force those outside receivers to have to work that much harder in order to try to keep some of those reps to themselves. And I think by the time we're sitting here next year, I think we're sitting here talking about Jaden Bray as one of the next breakout receivers at Oklahoma State.
Yep, I'm with you on that too. I'm going to go NFL draft. We saw in actually I did today, the CBS Sports, one of their newest mock drafts that came out this afternoon. Tevin Jenkins was selected at number 17 by the Las Vegas Raiders.
God, I hope not.
Okay, I was got to answer my question because buy or sell. This will kind of be like a two-parter mixed in. So buy or sell that either, one, that happens, and then two, if that does, are you happy with that? Obviously not. But
I would sell him going that high. Right. I think that sweet spot is anywhere between 19 and 21. I would love it if he went 17, right? The pick 17 is awesome. I would feel really bad I feel really bad for Tevin if he got drafted at 17 by the Las Vegas Raiders, right? I think anyone that gets drafted, I think if the Raiders had the number 1 overall pick and is willing to sign you to a $500 million rookie contract, I would feel bad for anybody that gets drafted by Las Vegas. So that, for me, that's a two-part answer because I would love to see him go at 17 because I think he's that good. But I would sell 17 and I'll stick to somewhere between 19 and 20. But I would hate for him to go to Las Vegas, period.
I think I would actually buy it. No, I know it's at 17, and maybe that is high for some drafts and some mock drafts.
Just a pick or two.
But you look at whoever else is available at that spot too. Okay, you've got Najee Harris right around there, running back, a couple of linebackers. The next one coming up, Elijah Vera Tucker at offensive line, and guess what? think Tevin Jenkins is better than he is. So I would go ahead and look, the Raiders need this. I mean, Vegas, like what they did with their offensive line, it was decimated, like to the point where people were like, what in the world is going on? You got 2 running backs over there this year that can be really solid. Josh Jacobs, Kenyon Drake comes on over, which I think is pretty decent addition. That's a pretty solid 1-2 punch in the backfield there. Not to mention, as I said with Derek Carr, that's why there was a lot of question was, okay, if they're emptying out this offensive line, what is that supposed to mean for Derek Carr? Because he's a guy that needs, and I've said this for years now, a guy that needs a lot of things to go right for him to really succeed. We saw last year he had his best year to date. Okay, well, he had a decent offensive line. So if you completely just get rid of that, then what? You need to bring a guy in like Tevin Jenkins who has the potential to be, I think, just leaps and bounds above a lot of offensive linemen, especially rookies, at the next level. We've seen his skill set. He's extremely athletic. And I think he would actually, when I saw this mock draft, I was like, yeah, I could see it being a perfect fit for the Raiders. I wouldn't be all that thrilled as a Chiefs fan because that would mean, oh, man, that's going to give Derek Carr more. I saw last year when Derek Carr had time, he beat the Kansas City Chiefs one time. So you look at what happened in that situation. I'm like, man, Tevin Jenkins, if he goes over there, I think it just fits too well. So I'm going to buy. I like that right there. We'll come up with our official mock drafts later on this week, but I'm telling you, that's kind of a precursor where I am. All right, Levi, real quick, what you I know you're dying to give me your thoughts on this one. Tevin Jenkins, Raiders, yes or no?
Biggest yes possible. I've got Tevin Jenkins. To me, there's like 2 or 3 places where he perfectly matches. It's basically anywhere between, honestly, 17 to 24. There's a very good couple spots. Oakland, to me, is the biggest place because they pretty much cleared out their whole right side of the offensive line, and you can also go center. I'm pretty sure they re-signed the guy that they're wanting to become their next center. They got Nick Martin from, it is the Houston Texans, but it's still a decent center. Really, you just need to fill up that right side of the field, and with the team that is primary power run, it just makes too much sense to go Tevin Jenkins at 17. And if it's not Las Vegas, then it needs to be Tennessee because they tried to fill that hole with Isaiah Wilson. That didn't work out because they traded him to the Dolphins. Now he's released. So one of those 2 spots to me makes too much sense if you're those organizations.
Yeah, I mean the Raiders, look, they love to run the ball. They really do. And a lot of times that sets up what Derek Carr does, and then you can run play action off of it.
Like you have two really great running backs in Josh Jacobs, who is your cowbell, and then Kenyon Drake, who is pretty much, I'd almost say, like your Swiss Army knife of a running back that can get you some good runs or can catch out of the backfield. And then you just fill in on that right side, and pretty much what they did, if they go full all in, they get Tevin Jenkins, is cleared out the right side where they were paying a lot of money for guys and just replaced them with a lot of younger guys that is going to fit right under the cap. They could probably draft a right guard like sometime later in the draft if they want to fill that slot if they're not comfortable with it. But, I mean, pretty much they're going to replace their whole offensive line with a lot of younger guys that are going to be able to do really well. And to me, Tevin Jenkins is the best run blocker, especially power run blocker in this draft class when it comes to that right side of the offensive line.
Yeah, and guys, I'll say this too. Look, about with Tevin Jenkins, were there teams that whenever they saw his press conference, they were like, did they cringe a little bit and gnash the teeth? Maybe. But all I'm saying here is there were probably some teams that were like, nice. That was pretty much the reaction. Nice.
John Gruden
Guess
was.
What? I'm telling you, the Raiders, I think they were at the top of that nice list. Like, they were like, ooh, hey, we don't mind getting a little gritty over here. This is Las Vegas. This is the Raiders. We have a reputation. We wouldn't mind getting – now, I'm not saying they're just basing that off of what he said, but they're like, hey, you're telling me that he's already that athletic and skilled and he's not afraid to get dirty too? Okay, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about things over here in Las Vegas. I like it. I can't wait to see where he goes in that first round. What else you got?
So I'm going NFL draft.
All right.
It's not a strong suit, but I think this one's going to be fun. I think you'll enjoy this, and I think Levi probably will too. So between now and the start of the draft, now and the 11th pick of the NFL draft, we see a team make moves. And we see some trade that involves a top 10 pick somewhere, somehow.
Yeah, I think that inevitable is too strong of a word because that we never know for sure. But I'm telling you, once that number 3 gets started there, we're going to see a lot of movement. I really do believe that's going to be the case. And, we get the report, which we'll go over here in a little bit. We get the report over the weekend that the Niners are apparently down to Mac Jones or Trey Lance. And if I think what it is you're getting a lot of talk here. And what that is basically is, okay, we can sit back and kind of watch and see what happens now that we have that report out there. Maybe you get some teams like the Eagles, like the Vikings, like the Patriots that decide, get up in there, man. We see an option here. If a guy like Justin Fields truly does fall, let's get up there and make a move and get in the top 10, and who knows what could happen after that. And so I think that we'll see that happen. I believe most likely during the draft is when I'm gonna buy that. Whether it's right away after 3, so be it. If you're sitting at 4, was Atlanta like, man, all right, we have Justin Fields to sit on the board. Do we go after Kyle Pitts? Do we go after Justin Fields? They make up their mind. All of a sudden, you've got different effects for teams down the line. Like, okay, what are the Eagles? What does Miami end up doing after they got that move from the Eagles? What does Detroit end up doing? Like we said, they could go ahead and make a move to get up if they really need to. Carolina, I still think they still need a quarterback eventually. I don't believe in Sam Darnold all that much. So you never know. Trey Lance can go around 9 or 10. I think Denver's in a good spot to potentially get him too. So there's a lot of movement, man. And I'm telling you right now, I think that that's going to happen as soon as 3 is off the board and we know who the Niners are selecting. Yeah, I'm expecting something like that to take place.
If the Niners don't take Justin Fields, I would like to submit a formal complaint to fight somebody in the San Francisco 49ers organization for not taking the best quarterback at that point, because it's pretty much a lock that Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson are going 1 and 2 respectively. Number 3 should be obvious, but then again, I just don't know what San Francisco is doing. If they don't take Justin Fields at 3, expect the unexpected. Anything goes at 4. You could either expect Atlanta to take Justin Fields, or you could expect them to trade away and get a bounty. It's going to be insane, but once that 3rd pick goes off the board, expect anything possible. And if Justin Fields ends up in the hands of Bill Belichick, we got a problem.
Yep, I'm with you on that too.
Yeah, I'll buy it. I think we see it somewhere in that draft, somewhere between 3 and 10. I think you'll see a teams like, hey man, listen, we need to get up in there. We need to try to find a franchise quarterback. We need to try to find that left tackle. We need to try to find a receiver that can help take us over the edge. So yeah, I'll buy it.
Yeah, and we've already seen, talked about the Niners, the Eagles, the Dolphins. You've seen the Chiefs already move out of the first round. There's been so much movement in this draft. Only going to continue once Thursday gets around here. When we come back, we'll stick with the draft and talk more about what the Niners said over the weekend. Basically came out yesterday that, hey, we're San Francisco and we're down to Trey Lance and Mac Jones. Everyone's like, one of those names wasn't Justin Fields. So we'll get into that coming up next here, Afternoon Sports Drive.
Whoa. Staring as I go, I gave until my soul hurt, never told them so. Watching as I fall.
Welcome back in Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network, Monday edition. Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster live from Furniture Showcase, 5th and Main, downtown Stillwater. StillwaterFurnitureShowcase.com. Shop safer and avoid the big city crowds at Furniture Showcase. You can shop by phone again at 338-7177, or you can even text them. Go online, StillwaterFurnitureShowcase.com, or shop in-store in downtown Stillwater.
I'm going to start this segment by saying that there's no such thing as Sasquatches. Like this hat that I'm wearing right here, if comes out and they're real, I will eat this hat.
I'm glad. I know Levi's recording this in studio. Thank goodness, because you're trying to open up a giant can of worms here. Okay?
Dumbest thing I've ever heard.
I'm telling you, this discussion was happening over the break.
Dumbest thing I've ever heard.
And I'm watching the Hulu documentary on Sasquatch right now, and I'm telling you, I'm not saying I just fully believe.
It kind of sounds like you believe.
I like to sit on the fence on this one. I can't grab. I'm a guy that's known for taking a side. I can't take the side this time. I just don't know. There's proof both ways.
What a straddler.
I know. I'm straddling it big time.
What
man.
a straddler.
You know what? One of these days, most likely on a Friday, when we have Levi 2 again, we'll just go full yes
Conspiracy
or no.
mode.
Like full yes or no Sasquatch. Like that's
no.
Well, I mean, we're gonna like delve into it. Like we'll go detailed. Like
God.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. Now that you brought it.
Now Sam Squanches, on the other hand.
Well, yeah, duh.
That's a little
we all know
different.
those
That's
exist.
a little different.
Come on, we all know those exist. You know what? Maybe the 49ers would rather take a Sasquatch than Justin Fields at quarterback. I mean, that's the latest report, okay, coming out over the weekend. We've gone back and forth in Vegas. Justin Fields or Mac Jones was the favorite, then Justin Fields, then Mac Jones again. Now this week, Justin Fields isn't even in the conversation, apparently. It's Mac Jones or Trey Lance at 3. That report comes out. And the first thing, I'm more skeptical on this, Zach, than I am on if the existence of Bigfoot is out there. I'm telling you right now that I'm not sure I believe any of this because I think it makes way too much sense to have this report leaked out there, right? Because if you're the Niners, you can basically say this, sit back, and potentially watch the world burn in the NFL draft. You can watch teams scramble, like the Patriots. Do they move up if they think Justin Fields is going to be there? The Eagles, the Vikings, do any of these teams make an early move and jump the gun based off this? Not a huge, great chance that it's early on it, but still, you throw this report out there and see what happens. It goes back to what I said on Friday. If this report is true with Trey Lance or Mac Jones, then the Niners are simply playing it safe, plain and simple. And I, again, don't think it's time to do that. The competitiveness of their division would dictate that. If you're the Jets or the Texans or the Lions or insert garbage team here, then so what? You play it safe and you miss, and who cares, right? You're back at it next year and no one's surprised. But if you're the 49ers, as good as you could be right now, as much talent as you do already know that you have, offensively, defensively, at the head coach position, because I believe in Kyle Shanahan, everything that you have going for you is not the time to play it safe. You go out there, you get a real weapon like Justin Fields, which again was the whole reason for his second pro day, was to invite the 49ers and get him out there, and he sits there and talks to Kyle Shanahan like he did, and I still believe Kyle Shanahan said in his ear, can't wait to see you in gold and red and everything whenever the draft is going, okay? Because you're going to be the next 49er. Is it a risk to get Justin Fields? Yeah, sure. It's a risk for any quarterback. But the rewards, potentially, are so much greater with him than they are with Mac Jones or Trey Lance. Everyone's like, man, I wish I could see some more football from Trey Lance. We didn't see anything last year. We couldn't. That's why I think when I heard those two names right there, I'm like, I get Trey Lance is probably going to go in the top 10, if not right after that. But there's not a ton of film on this guy. You don't know if he's going to be an experiment, how long it's going to take for him to get going in the NFL. With Justin Fields, you got to see every single thing he did under a microscope last year. And guess what? Most of it was pretty good. So if I'm the 49ers, of course I'm going to throw this out here. Absolutely want this report to be put out there for everybody to run with and run around with their head cut off in the draft and not sure what to do. Be ready. Do we move here? Do we move here? Do we move here? But then guess what? On Thursday, when it comes around to number 3, the 49ers select Justin Fields. And everybody's like, oh, okay. Collective deep breath. The Patriots can go back to, all right, so do we take Mac Jones? Let's figure this out. They're probably not as high as they were on themselves. It's probably a big collective well, that kind of sucks, but we kind of were expecting it and all this. Didn't really believe in the 49ers. But I understand what they're doing here. And it's very possible, Zach, that by the time Thursday come around, the 49ers could have played this about as well as anybody would have expected. Because getting up to number 3 is impressive. Nonetheless, you make that happen. But when that happened, you're telling me that they were still unsure who they were going to take a quarterback. I don't believe it for a second.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that you're talking about an absolute miss with Mac Jones or Trey Lance.
I don't either.
I think they could be good quarterbacks, but when your franchise for the next 3 or 4 years maybe rests on your 3rd overall pick and you don't take the most proven commodity, I question your leadership. I question your decision making. I think I will second the formal request to fight somebody in their organization.
It's like it's Levi's pumped.
Oh yeah, baby! I'm bringing the Sasquatch with me.
Oh, please do. It's like going to your favorite restaurant. You sit down,
so nice,
and you're like, man, I already know what I want because it's been great so many times. Like it's been good or it's been great so many times. And why? Because I feel comfortable. I feel safe ordering this because it's so good. But there's this one menu item that, man, I've really wanted to try for a long time. I've seen it before, but I passed up on it. Other people have had it, and it looked pretty good. Now, some have had it, and it was overcooked, or it was undercooked and didn't look that good. But then there were a few people, that's all they could talk about, was, man, I got that one item. Well, Justin Fields is now that one item where you're like, okay, I'm going in this time, and guess what? My sights are going to try something different. It's either going to be fantastic, where it works out really well, and it's my new favorite item. I love it. I may never go back to the old way, my old favorite item, or I'm like, no, I took a risk, didn't work out, but at least I tried it. That's going to be, and so I think that's certainly, potentially the risk is there for the 49ers, but the reward, man, the reward could be so much more if they went with it, and that's why I don't believe the 49ers would swing and miss on this. I just don't think that they can. And can't afford to in this situation with how competitive they have to be. Levi, do you buy any of this that the 49ers are putting out?
Goodness, I don't know anymore, man. With the way that media and the NFL, how they're all like going together in this day and age, I can't give a good confirm nor deny. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because you also got to look at a couple factors. And the main factor for me is San Francisco knows that this pick could potentially put them in Super Bowl contention. If they get the right pick, maybe not this year, but give it a couple years where maybe you feel like the corner part where truly their really only hole at this point is a couple parts on their defense, but then after that you can go on a Super Bowl run. I don't think you can miss if you go with Justin Fields, and then after that you're basically picking straws to see which of these guys have the potential. But I would hope that this is all just a smokescreen. If they're smart, that's what it is, to make everybody go freaking insane because it's working. Not only for us as journalists or whatever, it's also making GMs, it's making players go insane, it's making Jimmy G question whether or not he's got a job or not. It's something that is pretty insane. And you also got to look at this little factor of the NFL. To me, is one of those places that they are a lot better off whenever you have some of your primetime teams that have been there for the primetime, decade teams do a lot better. So with San Francisco or Dallas. So if San Francisco gets on top, that'll be very fun for the NFL. It's kind of like whenever with the NBA, it's a lot better whenever the New York Knicks are actually very good. So if San Francisco can get the right pick, I think this sends them within the next couple of years back to Super Bowl territory. And it's just, if they pull the wrong lever, there's a chance that the San Francisco 49ers do exactly what they did a couple of years back with Alex Smith, Colin Kaepernick, and they literally blow up the team at the worst possible time whenever everything's finally come together.
I can't do a wrong lever, Kronk. Wrong lever? I mean,
no.
Emperor's New Groove?
No, they can't do that. There's no second lever that can redeem this, unfortunately. And there's no giant roller coaster. Yeah. It's just sadness.
I really do think you've got John Lynch and you've got Kyle Shanahan, and they, after this report came out yesterday, they're sitting up in the office, right? Feet are kicked up on the desk, and they are enjoying all the talk going on. Everybody freaking out, the league being put on notice. Okay, this is where we need to be ready to go. This is who we need to move up on the draft board. I think they're loving it. And again, that's what I'd say. It goes back to potentially they could be playing this really perfect. Mm-hmm. Now, if they stick to it and they do go through and they get Mac Jones, or they even which I think is completely reaching, grabbing Trey Lance at 3. Okay, well, I mean, at least we figured out they played it safe, but good luck with everything you've got. But if that's the case, that means that you might have Jimmy G starting this upcoming season, and he's just kind of grooming the next guy in. If you get Trey Lance, or pardon me, Justin Fields, Jimmy G's not going to be grooming very often. I would expect him to not even be a part of the team by the time Justin Fields came in.
If you wanted Mac Jones, you could have stayed at 12. If you wanted Trey Lance, you could have traded up with with Philadelphia at 6, and you wouldn't have had that whole fiasco where the 3-team trades all around. So it makes too much sense for this to be Justin Fields. But knowing the NFL and knowing the way GMs and coaches work, I will not put it past the San Francisco 49ers if they end up taking Mac Jones. It would not surprise me one bit, but it will surprise me who ends up going at 4, because someone will trade up at 4 to take Justin Fields, and I could not give you a guess of which team. It could be Chicago, it could be the Patriots, it could be a handful of teams that see Justin Fields as a future. Heck, if Carolina isn't that comfortable with Sam Darnold, you could trade up and get Justin Fields. It'd be a division thing, but that would probably be heck to get done. And also, it wouldn't surprise me if then the Falcons then just take Justin Fields and say, well, looks like you'll be sitting behind Matt Ryan for the next couple of years, and then you will be the prodigy son. So it will not surprise. Actually, no matter what, it's going to be a kind of a toss-up at 3. I think everybody in their right mind is saying, you can't mess this up if you go Justin Fields at 3. But knowing San Francisco and knowing the way the league tosses up, where there's usually a couple times in the draft somebody gets drafted way too high, it wouldn't surprise me if San Francisco pulls out the crazy wild card and picks either Mac Jones or Trey Lance at 3, and then we just see the league turn on its head for about a good 20 minutes.
Yeah, I'm giving you guys a preview to more content coming up this week in the show, and I'm definitely, at this moment, if that were the case, leaning towards the Patriots to move up and potentially grab Justin Fields.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's a lot of reasons that we'll explain throughout the week, but it makes too much sense there.
Oh, yeah.
If so, like you said, if Mac Jones or Trey Lance is at number 3, the draft is going to go nuts.
And you can catch all that coverage here. We'll be on my show, the student section, where Thursday I'm doing a whole day 1 NFL special. Will be starting from 7 instead of 8, so I'll cover for the majority of the first round.
There you go. That'll be good stuff. Make sure you tune in for that. How about that?
Did you say that John Paul Richardson's going to be the next Dylan Stoner because he's wearing 17?
I actually didn't even think about his number. I swear.
I had to convince myself that Dylan Stoner didn't come back. I thought Dylan was gone, and then I was like, oh, that's John Paul Richardson.
Yeah, it's it's not just the appearance. I mean, I think he could literally fill in with everything that Dylan Stoner did. I just like that. I think it's a solid comp, right? I'll pat myself on the back for a decent comp there.
I'll give it 2 years.
Okay, yeah, give it 2 years, and we'll see if I'm patting my back. Okay. When we come back on the afternoon sports drive, we'll tell you what we learned to round out this Monday. It's coming up next.
Feel like I'm gonna puke, cause my taxes are due. Do my password begin with a 1 or a 2? Been a hell of a ride, but I'm thinking it's time to grow.
Metronome.
Man, I'm up to something. Woody-la-di-do, thank you all for coming. I hope you like the show, cause it's on a budget. So woody-la-di-do, yeah. Come on, here we go, yeah. Come on.
Here we go.
So put your best face on, everybody breathe.
And afternoon sports drive, Triple Play Sports Radio. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster, Levi Peckinpah's out in the studio. We're live at Stillwater Furniture Showcase. Don't forget to shop local when you need a new mattress. Furniture Showcase has all the brands that the big city stores have in stock and ready for delivery. Big names like Tempur-Pedic, Ashley, Sealy, Serta, and more mattress brands for any size bed. For the comfort type you like to sleep on, you can find it here at Furniture Showcase, Stillwater's mattress store. Family owned since 1982. Stillwater Furniture Showcase.com, 388-7177. To round out the show, we're going to tell you what we learned here on this Monday.
The day is coming to an end. Time to find out if these two got any smarter. Let's find out what the guys learned today on the afternoon sports drive.
Well, I learned something today.
So I learned, first of all, a lot of people forget that that Patrick Mahomes actually had surgery recently on that turf toe, and that was something that he was kind of ailing through most of the way into the playoffs, and I think even in the Super Bowl he might not have shown it much, but certainly was an issue. And as you guys know, I mean, turf toe is no joke. We've heard from a lot of players, like it seems like it may not be that big of an issue just on the surface, but man, that's got to be annoying and really painful. So he's progressing ahead of that scheduled surgery that he had, and I'm telling you right now, and I'll have more on this later on when the season gets closer and closer, but he's coming back. And what I mean by that is you've seen the offensive line, the pieces have been put in place, and that is something that I said from the second the Super Bowl ended. If I know the Chiefs ownership, and I do, they're going to immediately. I mean, I'm telling you, the second half started, and they were probably like thinking, all right, here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to make this move. We're going to make this move. They get Orlando Brown to finalize things, and they've got the pieces in place here. They don't even have to worry about a first-round pick right now. You shore up that offensive line, but I'm telling you, I'm expecting a comeback somewhat lines like we've never seen. Now, that's all hinging on Mahomes stays healthy. But nothing could have fueled him and this team more than the loss they took in the Super Bowl. It's one thing to lose close, maybe late in the game or something like that, and you just get outplayed offensively, and hey, tip your cap, good job. It's another to get completely blown out and just dominated, and that's what happened to him. And there's this, with what Kansas City has done since he's been in the league, there's been this obvious storyline surrounding them that they can't be stopped. They're the best. No one's going to challenge them and all this stuff. Well, then they got some humble pie in the Super Bowl, and I think that really is part of this whole, you're going to see it plastered all over social media when the season turns around. It's comeback tour. It's comeback season. We're gonna get back out there and be right back where we want to be in the Super Bowl. And guess what? We're going to come with a vengeance. Our goal is 17-0 now. Super Bowl, nothing less. It's going to be that. And I'm expecting Patrick Mahomes to, and I'm not going fanboy here. This is really just something I think he has the potential to do with his skill. Yes, we've seen an MVP season before. We're going to see that potentially again. And there's a lot of good talent here in the league right now. But if you get him healthy, you get him motivated, which he already is, this is, I think, a scary year for a lot of teams playing Kansas City. You get the weapons back, the offensive line, like we talked about, it might take a couple games to gel, who knows? But I have to really believe that they're going to shore this thing up and look out. I mean, if I'm the rest of the league, I am. And Patrick Mahomes says he's ahead of schedule, feeling good on the surgery. He's back, ready to go. I'm expecting one heck of a comeback.
Yeah, that'll be pretty solid. I'm looking forward to watching that season. So I've got two things. One short one I found out earlier today. That Trevor Lawrence has signed an endorsement deal with cryptocurrency portfolio management app Blockfolio.
Might be the most
Blockfolio.
Might be the most 2021 thing I've ever heard. Go ahead.
The interesting part, he accepted his signing bonus through the management company exclusively in crypto.
Did they give an amount on that by chance? Wow, that's
not
still...
yet. I would imagine by now that there's probably the number has been out. But his signing bonus, which he accepted exclusively in crypto, is already worth more today than it was when he deposited the account of money on Friday.
Nice, that's awesome.
Wild.
And I told you, I got to throw this in there with yours now because one of the Chiefs tight ends, a lot of people haven't heard of him. His name's Sean Culkin. He will become the first NFL player that converts his entire salary to Bitcoin.
Smart.
$920,000.
I'm gonna start telling Bill Coleman just to send my check in Bitcoin.
By the way,
if you could, no more paper, please.
Yes, Bitcoin only.
I'll take it in Bitcoin. I'll take my fraction of a Bitcoin, please. Because them dudes, what is it, like 38,000 now or something? Just outrageous.
Yeah.
And the other thing I learned it over the weekend. Kim Mulkey is the head coach of women's Baylor basketball. Is leaving Baylor. She's there 21 years. She's won 3 national championships. She's leaving for LSU, which she's from Louisiana. She played her college basketball at Louisiana Tech. I think her kid played baseball at LSU. So I don't really understand the move. I guess. I mean, you leave Baylor where. You're making, so we found out that Gino Auriemma is making, what was it, 2.4 million. There's no way she's making less than $1.5 million She's one of the most highly paid women's basketball coaches in the country. And she's like, I don't think I want to be a Baylor. I don't think I want to be. I don't blame her. I wouldn't want to be a Baylor either. But yeah, she's leaving Baylor. She was 631 and 104 since taking over back in 2000. Won a championship back in 2019. Guided him to an Elite Eight in 2021. I didn't know this. She is the only person in NCAA women's basketball history to win a national championship as a player and a coach.
Wow.
And she won an Olympic gold medal in 1984. Wild.
That's why when I saw that news, I was kind of surprised because I'm like, why not just call it a career?
Just retire.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I was like, instead of changing teams, like she might have got a sweet deal. She might be making a lot of money, but it's like, why not just call it a career?
I think we're going to – there's no like, one, we're either going to find out pretty close to what she was making at Baylor, depending on that contract she signs with LSU. LSU, which if I'm not mistaken, is a public school. And so their financial records will be out in the open. So we'll finally know how much money Kim Mulkey makes because Baylor is a private Christian school. They don't divulge their financials. So if they hire her at like $1.2 million, then that's pretty comparable than what she was making at Baylor. And so then it's well, I just want to be home because I don't know how much longer she coaches. She's been coaching a long time.
Yeah.
So I could see her coaching a few more years at LSU and just calling it quits.
That's kind of where I am. I'm like, she wants to go closer to home, finish it up. Who knows how long she'll actually stay there, and that's it. She, like you mentioned, her accolades there. It's obviously incredibly impressive.
Gotta say, I'm not gonna miss Kim Mulkey in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Not a big Kim Mulkey fan.
She's stingy. She was, and what she did in coaching. I mean, she's
super great coach. One of the best of all time.
That's what I'm saying. She's one of those that when we all have them, you don't necessarily like, you respect what she did in her career because that's just unbelievable.
I know Jordan Bishop doesn't like her.
Mm-hmm. I remember.
For those of you that don't know, I know we got to go. Jordan Bishop wrote an article after Baylor. Baylor won. I think they won comfortably. And all Jordan said was that this Baylor team isn't as good as like traditional Baylor teams. Didn't say they were bad. Just said they weren't as good as a normal Baylor team. And she had the paper. Like, she got the paper and called him out in a post-game press conference in Stillwater. Like,
hilarious.
For like 5 minutes, like, called him out. It was the most embarrassing thing for Kim Mulkey that I've ever seen. I mean, it was just like, it was so cringeworthy, and you're just sitting there just like, Kim, what are you doing? He didn't say. He just said you weren't as good. I think he said they were just I think he said they were an average Baylor team, and she just lit him up. And it was like, why are you in Waco reading the Stillwater News Press? Like, what the hell? And I think she had a physical copy, so she had someone like send it to her.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say somebody told her. They were like, hey, this was written. And she was probably like, let me see it. And then she felt the need to, okay, this is,
Bought it.
I'm going to take enough offense to this and I'm going to bring it up.
God.
And that Jordan Bishop guy, you might as well just, come on now. I mean, really? You're letting him write about it?
So I'm quite glad we will no longer have to deal with Kim Mulkey.
There you go. Kim Mulkey, out of it.
Adios.
She went to the SEC. See you later. This has been the Afternoon Sports Drive here on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Thank you to Furniture Showcase. Again, come check them out at 5th and Main, downtown Stillwater. They're open for another hour here today, open till 6 p.m. every day except Sunday, so come check them out. StillwaterFurnitureShowcase.com, 388-7177. That's Levi Peckinpah back in the studio. You can check out his show tonight at 8 o'clock. That's Zach Lancaster, and I'm Patrick Wheeler. We'll be back tomorrow, 3 o'clock.